Good morning, everyone. Anthony Thorpe again. I'm here to make another insert regarding what's happening in terms of our businesses in Jamaica and the problems we're having in the Supreme Court and corruption itself. So I think I've pretty much built up or given you as much information as I can on the corruption in the courts. So I want to spend some time this morning showing you the level of damage that has been done to the economy. We've been talking about it, but I haven't really shown you anything to show that we were actually doing these projects and therefore to justify what we're saying. But before I go on to that, I want to thank everybody that's been coming to the channel and making comments. Really appreciate the fact that you're concerned about me and my partners as well. So it does help, and that's one of the things we went out to let people know what was happening, because that's our greatest protection. So right now, those of you who are logging in and checking out what's going on and sharing the information with other persons are really helping to protect not only us but the nation itself from anything like this in the future, because I'm determined to expose it so we can put an end to the corruption, because it's not only hurting individuals but it's hurting the entire country and the entire population of Jamaica and Jamaicans, whether they're in Jamaica or abroad. So thank you, and looking forward to working with you, not only on you coming to the channel and talking or sharing your thoughts about what's going on and even making recommendations, which I encourage, because as I said in yesterday's video, which was February 25th 2023, I definitely am encouraging persons to become involved, whether directly or from behind the scenes. And because of technology like this, we can do it. We don't have to be physically anywhere to get things done. And that's the plan of action that I want to execute. Hence the reason I made suggestions yesterday of some of the preliminary and basic things we can do to prevent us having to have this experience. I shouldn't be wasting your life, my life, and going over redundant things like corruption in the Jamaican economy, but it's happening in real time. And it's affecting all of us. And if you have any children, yourself, we don't know how much longer you have on the planet, but you have children, you have family, you have friends who have to deal with all of this mess. And so we want to make sure we really take some decisive actions to fix the problem and not just talk about it. I don't want us to hype and get people all hysterical or bring up hysteria, and then we're not providing any solutions. For the persons who have commented and asked me to, if I could shorten the videos, believe me, I've been trying. However, as you can see, there's a lot of information, and when you start the flow of information around a certain topic or theme, it's not so easy to do it in 15-minute slots or even 20-minute slots. And if it's to be effective and have the meaningful impact we want, so people fully understand what's going on, unfortunately we have to go into those areas sometimes. And of course there's a spillover, because when we mention one thing it leads into another, and couldn't just throw it out there and leave it for you to guess. So I'm asking you, if you may, and you really want to be a part of the movement I'm trying to create, is take a break and put it on hold and go back to it. Mark where you left off, so that you can break it down into your 15-minute or 20-minute slots, because the entire video covers a certain topic and event, and it's not so easy to break the theme, as you can well imagine. So I appreciate the comments, the recommendations, and when I can be short, I'm going to be short. Like this morning, see, I spent 4 or 5 minutes doing this and haven't started into the topic yet. Alright, so here we go. Alright, so one of the things I discussed and exposed you to, and everybody that's watching, is that the vindictive nature of the proceedings in the Supreme Court and that one of the strategies these corrupt attorneys and judges employ is to find technical areas so that they can handicap you going forward or be successful. And even after we've been successful, they find ways to handicap you getting out of the court and getting on with your life. So, as I said, we won the case from 2012. 2015 it was concretized. 2018, when Justice G. Brown ruled again on it, it further sent a message that there is no turning back for us. It's just a matter of us collecting our damages, and any injunctions that were placed against our development and property would be lifted so we could go on to the projects. As soon as I think it was 2021 again when I said there was no path for success for these individuals, Capital One, John Graham, Alexis Robinson, there was no path for success for them, period. Instead of backing off and allowing us to go on, the vindictiveness started. And in fact, it started before, when they tried to take over the property by putting injunctions there, publishing the injunctions in the paper to destroy our image and the business itself and our development, raising questions about the legitimacy of us having the right to develop our own property. So the vindictiveness was already there. The vindictiveness existed when Justice Sykes decided he wasn't going to have the police grant the police the order so they could actually do a formal investigation within the courts. But like I said, I don't believe the cops should need any authorization from anybody to investigate crimes or fraud. That's their job. So in the case of the Supreme Court, not even the Chief Justice has any authority to stop them from investigating. So that was just another excuse for law enforcement not to do their jobs when it comes to certain persons. If we were some high-powered person, local, having the political influence, we wouldn't have gone through that. So, yeah, so we wanted to make sure we got that message out to everybody, that our intention in getting involved with this online channel on YouTube is to inform you actually of the events, why we got involved, why it's so important to deal with this corruption, and not just inform people that corruption exists in Jamaica, but to inform them that without them being aware of what's going on and themselves playing a role in pressuring government to correct those ills or clean out the houses of government of these individuals and have law enforcement do their jobs, we can't complete major developments. And it's going to be the same for other Jamaicans and who really want to develop the local economy. So we did mention a few things, and one of the things wanted to highlight was the fact, of course, we did talk about how they, in defiance of the rule of the court, went ahead and attempted to sell the property twice. And the party they employed in the last go at it was this lady. Some people might know her. And we gave her a clean shot to come forward and get out of the problem. So this lady, Nicola De La Pena, and so the pricing there. So those were some of the things they effected against us to stop the project from going. Then the last thing they did was to file another claim against me personally, that I was trespassing on the property. Now for that basic reason, I wanted all of the persons who were paying attention to realize again that the courts knew exactly that I couldn't be trespassing on property that I was developing. And as a result of that, I'm going to be showing you some pictures of actual work that we began, leasing agreements, and a flowchart of the projects we're doing. So, alright, so I'll go first of all with the flowchart of the projects we were doing. Just a glimpse, you know, as I said, so that was a proposal for the Montego Bay property, the one that they're trying to steal. And the Montego Bay property is extremely valuable because of its location. It's perched on top of a ridge overlooking the entire literally entire hip strip area, the airport, and downtown Montego Bay, especially when we go on the higher points of the property. And from there, as I said, we were going to be doing high-rise structures. So this was one of the renderings we had done in terms of the projects. All right, because the site itself is about 11 point something acres, and we were involved in developing adjoining property belonging to joint venture partners, who these people went in and told that we lost the project, we lost the property, and show them the injunction published in the Mirror to say the property and the project was a loss. That's you can see that dark area in green. That's the project site, and that was to host a 14 million square feet retail commercial center with a 3-tower hotel condominium on the property that I'm trying to sell. That's the site plan or the floor plan for the 3-tower. If you notice, 1, 2, 3, there's a elevated pool in the center. There's another pool to the northeast, I think, or northeast. And if you notice, that's just the area on the site that they've been trying to take. So that was one project. That was the Finian on the Ridge Hotel Condominium Resort. That's the one we said we had gotten our approvals at 21 stories, but we subsequently, after we lifted the first injunction in 2015, sought to move the project up to 125 stories, because we thought it was a good idea to stave off the stave off the escalations in cost, budgeting, so we're more cost effective by increasing the floor space available. It would also create an iconic structure for the Montego Bay area and Jamaica period, because a complex like this would again put Jamaica on the map as having the tallest, or one of the tallest buildings in the Western Hemisphere. And this was a high-rise luxury apartment condominium structure, and we were offering financing and very, very attractive pricing on some of those units. I say some because some of them got up to the 14 million US dollar mark, because we're thinking about entire floors and penthouses. So this was a high-end development. Then there was another development. This was in Hanover. As you can see, this is a waterfront development, a massive waterfront development, and that was part of the franchise for the same hotel here we're talking about at Finian on the Ridge, which is the first hotel. So the other one was Finian at Cotton Bay in Hanover. We negotiated with that property, and we're in the process of completing the transaction. However, what happened was we were using the primary project at Queens Drive to launch the other developments, because there were franchises of that development. Here we have another development. This was a development for Mandeville, and this one was fully approved and paid for. And because of their actions, we had to back off of it because they killed our financing. This was the site layout for the Finian Preserve in Clarendon, 4-path, Clarendon. And this was a 300-acre development with over 600 home sites, apartment buildings, a 40-acre commercial center, and a whole lot more. And so those are the things Capital One, John Graham, and the Supreme Court are holding up. This is a Botanica Country Club. That was one of the latest promotions we started in 2015 when we got the injunction lifted and Justice Beswick ruled in our favor. This was a 90-something acre project with mostly high-rise condominiums, a town center, a university, and a whole lot more. So modern building. These are renderings, obviously, and we had to back off and shut down. These are projects we're doing in, if you know, to St. Mary. If you're familiar with St. Mary, you'll know those water series. I think we took these shots from up where Buccaneer Morgan, or Governor, or whatever his name, Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica Morgan, Henry Morgan, I think, the pirate. We took those shots, some of those shots from up where he was. Then we have the Pleasant View, which is the middle shot. That was in Westmoreland. And Waterwheel, which is the top shot, is also in. And then the bottom one is the Bradba Estate, high-rise condominiums, and those were within walking distance of hotels and the beach, Port Maria. Then you have the Sunset at Lincoln townhomes. That's the project that we fully paid for, and we were getting ready to move the project. So we had garnered and worked out our financing, and these people just stepped in, and the courts and I'm showing you everything that's filed in the courts records now, and the courts being vindictive and trying to get back at us, or me, for fighting them and fighting their buddy corrupt attorneys, decided they were going to put a blind eye to everything we're doing and did everything they could in their powers to stop us from going forward. And that's the position we're in now. So there was also the whole argument about us trespassing on Queens Drive. Now, if you notice, these are actually heavy equipment that's working on the Queens Drive property from 2013. Right? 2000. It's a really rocky project, which is good, because then we can anchor the high-rise buildings, which is one of the reasons the site is so valuable in terms of putting up major high-rise structures. Most of the Mobay area along the coast is mostly swamp and soft. So I don't know if you've passed the airport and you see where they're working on the airport, but they have to be bringing in a lot of rock to dump the airport and then dig out, pack it in. It's called demucking, where you remove the muck, the mud, and then you pack it with harder material, rock boulders, like we have here. So we have boulders, rocks, solid rock on our property, and in fact the quality of the rock we have on our property is the quality that they'd want to build seawalls and all of that. So the site is extremely valuable. So the rocks on the property alone are worth billions and billions of dollars. And what we wanted to do was take these rocks and recycle them into aggregate to build out the project. But the significance of this is, from 2013 we had actually started to excavate the property so we could anchor those buildings. And then in 2021, Alexis Robinson went and filed a claim in the court that I was trespassing on the property. Now remember, this is 2013, when actual tractors were working on the site. We had our development plans passed. The only thing we had left to do was to go ahead and finish our engineering drawings to accommodate the high-rise buildings. So again, the vindictive nature of these people, and they don't realize how they're hurting the country. Now I'm just going to show you this. These are lease forms they were more or less similar to acquisition forms. So persons who want to make reservations for units, either for leasing or for eventual ownership, and both the commercial and residential space, or the condominiums. Showing you this, the document is proprietary, of course, but showing you this because wanted you to be extremely comfortable if you have to discuss this with anybody, that we were way ahead of the game. We are actually taking reservations on space. This is from 2009, 2008. Once we landed our permits, we started to take reservations on the space, and it was moving pretty well, with the intention that this would allow us now to pay off whatever loans we were getting from the Chinese construction company. Yet these judges ignored all of this and said I'm trespassing, issued injunctions against us, again moving those projects forward. And the significance of that, of course, it doesn't just affect me. I just showed you projects in Clarendon, in St. Mary, in Westmoreland, in St. James. Two major projects in St. James. The country club, Botanical Country Club, had a 15,000 unit residential component plus a university. We already signed up persons who are going to manage the university. And why we tied that whole development into with the college and the university was because I wanted to start developing educational tourism. Because one of the things we set out to do is not just build, the average person building real estate in Jamaica, they just come, build, sell it, and they leave, and they don't think about what happens next. How people are going to be paying for these mortgages long term? How is it going to be beneficial to the country if you only put up structures that don't generate long term income for the growth of the economy? So our projects, as you can see, are based on hotel condominiums, hotel, retail, commercial space. And the idea was that we were going to not only encourage Jamaicans locally to develop their own business concepts and give them reasonably priced space for long term. Because the other problem in Jamaica with doing business is most landlords in Jamaica, commercial or otherwise, don't want to release people's space for more than 5 years. As far as I know, there's no way you can build a business, get and pay back your investment dollars in 5 years unless you're extremely lucky, especially when you're paying high rental. And then, so that means businesses need a space that they can anchor their business for long-term growth and development. And the other thing that did, not having a long-term lease, a business person or an entrepreneur opening a business was limited to that short-term 5-year period. So they couldn't turn around and sell their business. Because you have a business and something happens, you might be migrating, moving, or you just got to a point in your life where you wanted to do something else or retire, you wanted to sell that business. Having a 5-year lease and selling the business to somebody is not an attractive venture or sale for that person acquiring it, because they're saying, I now have to go negotiate for a lease from the landlord, and possibly at a much higher rate. Because if you lease the property some 5 years before, or even 10 years before, let's say 10 years, and somebody comes in to buy your business at the point of purchase, it means they are without a lease, because the leases aren't assignable. And even if they're assignable, it's a short term. So this person coming in and buying a business or wanting to buy a business is going to say, but if I buy this business from you and you only have 2 more years on your lease, I'll have to start looking around, and this landlord might be like the people at the Supreme Court or John Graham, those attorneys down there, vindictive. They see you making progress, they want to now extort you, want you to pay more money, like that other gentleman I told you when we had an agreement, paid him almost 20-something million, not almost, over 20-something million dollars for the development rights. And John Graham went to him and told him that then he's not supposed to allow us to move forward on the project. Then he turned around and say, no, he wants $18 million US. And when the agreement was 6.7 for the balance. So the point is, similar to somebody buying a business, you come in now and that vindictive landlord, seeing your business doing well, is going to say, I want to cut into your profit or cut into the profit of the business, so I need more money on the lease, the future lease, which means the buyer for your business now will have to now budget for a much higher cost to them. And remember, they're buying a business based on the accounting, the balance sheet that you produce to them, in which now it blows out that whole balance sheet, and then the insecurity of having no lease. So we develop a long-term lease plan for the projects, and what that does now, it would allow persons to buy what is called a ground lease. It operates in other parts of the world. So instead of paying us on a monthly basis, they would purchase the ground lease up front in bulk, which works for us, works for them, because now they're locking up the lease, or how much it would cost them for the lease, for 10, 20, 15, all up to 40 years. I'm pretty sure about people were renting places or leasing places for 100 years, 99 years. So we were selling ground leases to persons, and once you purchase it at a certain figure, it means regardless of what happens, your figure can't change during the tenure of the lease, which now allows you to do proper business planning. Because if that lease keeps shifting every year because of inflation, and the landlord is coming in and saying, I need more, I need more, I need more, and your business isn't doing more, and even if your business is doing well, he's constantly eating into your profit and your growth potential. So now that you purchase the lease up front in bulk, it means that you could now have a fixed amount for your lease. You can now calculate in your budget that it's a constant, and therefore you know can actually do projections on your profits or your business with much more accuracy. So it worked for us. So we developed a marketing strategy that includes bringing in and offering local persons or anybody that wanted leases, long-term leases, to manage their business. And that was good, because then you start stabilizing the economy. Because if persons who have leases long-term running a business don't have to face constant increases on an annual basis, and based on Jamaican law, you can literally increase the lease every year. Every year you can increase the lease. I think on residential it's like 7.7%. I might be off on it, but under the law you legally can increase the lease. So what we did with what we were doing is pretty much saying to the local economy, we're taking measures to stabilize the economy so we don't have this constant runaway inflation thing. Because when the lease goes up on these businesses, it means the price on products go up, which is bad for the consumer. And if we don't fight inflation, it's going to kill the economy, and therefore all these investments we're doing in major projects are going to die, or they're not going to happen, because people are going to say, but I don't have a stable factor in carrying out business, and therefore there's no need to spend your time, waste your time, come invest in Jamaica merely because of sentiments, because you're Jamaican, when in truth and in fact you could go into Florida, buy property for far less, or lease property for far less, long term, and have that constant in a market that's much more stable, where your product prices are pretty much locked in. So the same thing, we were working to do that in Jamaica. And again, because we had a mission of stabilizing the country and building the economy, not just coming in and sucking out the profits. As I said in a previous video, that the goal was to make sure that the money that we were putting into developing the country was not going back out. Because when money stays within the local economy and it circulates, I think there's an analogy that says if it circulates 11 times within the local economy before it goes anywhere else, you have a really rich and growing economy. That's our plan. That was our plan. Also mentioned to you that one of the things we were doing to market Jamaica, market the projects, because we aggressively were pursuing developing the island. because if you notice, the projects are strategically placed around the island. And one of the reasons for doing that and trying to do the projects at the same time was that it would push employment during the construction stage across the island. So you wouldn't have people in St. Thomas trying to migrate down to Montego Bay to get into the major project in Montego Bay, because you had major projects on that side of the island. The same thing in Clarendon, same thing in Mandeville. So you help to stop the rural urban migration, where people move out of the country or move out from their locality, they flood into a certain area, creating housing issues, creating informal communities without infrastructure. You know what goes along with that. Typically follows thugs going in there and intimidating people, and then it becomes a crime-ridden area, which is typically what happens. Mobay probably has the largest informal settlements or squatter communities on the island. And in those areas that you have all of these squatting communities, you have high crime. There's a reason, because a lot of people go into those areas, they're moving in there with their kids, everybody living in a small house, there are no jobs, and when you live in those areas and you go for employment, a lot of the employers don't want to employ you because you're coming from certain areas that's been stigmatized. So the revolving door of a failing economy is supported with that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure we weren't contributing to the rural urban migration into city areas where these major projects were being done. So putting a projects in Mandeville, in Clarendon, pretty close, same area pretty much, we would pick up some of those persons who needed jobs in those areas, and then not having them flooding to St. James and other areas and creating more havoc in terms of informal squatter communities. And it would also now bring in infrastructure into those areas. And the projects, if you notice, they're strategically placed along major highways. The Clarendon project, for example, there's actually the railroad that passes there, and we intended to make sure we'd get licensed to put trains on that track, take people from Kingston into the Clarendon project, and they could take transportation from the railway station going into Mandeville and all of that. So we'll be helping to reduce the whole dependency on transportation via vehicle and taxi and buses, which again is going to help the economy, because fighting to reduce the amount of consumption in terms of petrol and cars on the road, we're reducing a lot of cost to the country. Because when we reduce cost to the country, it means we're building the economy of the country. Our values in terms of balance of trade or balance of payment issues are reduced, because we don't have to be constantly borrowing to pay for what we consume from the international market. We'd actually be earning it. And if we have less cars coming in, it means less money going out to Japan. It means less people wasting their money buying insurance, maintaining cars, buying car parts to service those cars. If you have a train service coming out of Kingston into Clarendon in a major urban center, because Fort Park is only a couple miles from downtown. What's the town there? Anyway, what's the capital of Clarendon? Maypen. So we're close to Maypen, we're close to Mandeville, and therefore we're helping again to bring in infrastructure and stuff into the economy that wouldn't destroy it. Now we mentioned that to get this job done, we aggressively can't launch a campaign to go international, and actually had made arrangements with business, what you call Chamber of Commerces in Florida, Canada, sorry, to launch a 6-city tour. And I don't want people to think Anthony Thorpe is out here building up some stuff that don't go so, just to sell what we're doing. And no, everything we say again is provable. I hope you can see that. Bye bye Jamaica, because we put this, and this is in the newspaper, we put this in the papers because to promote buying the project. And if you look what's there, it's saying Buy Back Jamaica. And the reason we have launched a Buy Back Jamaica campaign was because a lot of foreigners were coming in and are coming in and buying up the entire coastline of Jamaica and the really valuable areas of Jamaica that Jamaicans should be owning and developing and keeping the money here. So we launched the Buy Back Jamaica campaign, and this included a 6-city tour. And that 6-city tour was going to land us again across the US, Canada, and the UK. Verifying this in the paper again is verifying that what we say is what we were doing. Right? So, in short, and winding up, we even had a real estate program, because I've been in the real estate business for 4 decades, 40 plus years, so I'm very experienced with real estate from all corners. And as you can see from the document here, hopefully you can read it, I'm going to go over it. We were introducing a bunch of proprietary products to help build the economy, put money back into our real estate partners and persons who were working to develop their real estate portfolio. Because one of the things in terms of the real estate portfolio, was that most people buy real estate, they buy a house or 2 houses, they take out a mortgage, and they say that's the biggest investment, or that's a major investment. In truth and in fact, if you're doing accounting, when you buy a piece of property and you mortgage it, meaning you give the bank a mortgage on your property, and the mortgage gives them the right to sell your property, and you have a mortgage for 20-30 years. When you do the maths, and don't take my word for it, go look at your loan agreement, your mortgage agreement. When you do the maths, you're actually paying the banks some 4 or 5 times what you paid for the property, depending on your interest rate. So at the end of the day, you actually lost money if you're thinking of it in terms of an investment. In some instances, the property appreciates and you walk away with a nice equity. But when you really run the numbers, the equity you're walking away with in most cases is far less than what you actually paid the banks in terms of your mortgage, your note, not the mortgage. You gave them the mortgage, your note. So our job as real estate investors and developers, and the business we were conducting, would have now allowed our persons, our people, our clients and our members to come to the understanding how real estate really works. Then once they started to build their portfolio, the goal now was to get them to connect with other real estate persons that we were in contact with and have them do joint venture projects. And so now they would actually become genuine real estate investors and developers. And so they would not only be investing and developing real estate in Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean and the US, because the US was a major market and is a major market. And if you understand that market, you can make a whole bunch of money out there. So because I was experienced in the market and was accustomed to various elements of the real estate industry that the average person doesn't know about in Jamaica, and because of the economy and people were saying what they're earning, they can't keep up with inflation, this would have given the Jamaican who saw the product and understood it, because we were training them to understand it, and that was the plan. Put them on a computer and then show them how they could stay at the house, even with their existing jobs, and make millions of dollars annually. I'm talking US dollars, working the US real estate market legally. In other words, whereas these young people are out there now scamming people using the digital means to do it, these young people getting the training and education would be able to sit at home and make more money legitimately and be able to keep it, not breaking any laws, once we got our products launched. But guess what happened to the products? These injunctions and these horrible people in Jamaica who claim they have Jamaica's interests at heart are the ones that were killing these businesses from going forward. So instead of us having a whole bunch of people scamming people, we would have a whole bunch of people doing investment and in international markets, making that money and coming home. Sadly enough, the persons who are doing this are killing this country and damaging the economy selfishly, because as I said before, What's their interest? What's their interest in taking action against a business and people who have Jamaica's interest at heart and bringing in? And we didn't have to come here and do it, But of course, I believe in the trout syndrome, where trouts and salmon go back home. Wherever they're born, they go back home and they go there and they spawn and continue the line. I am one of those persons who believe that I have a vested interest in making sure this country survives and be successful. And because these people kill these kind of projects, because the bank's not doing this, the banks are here sucking money out of a limited amount of people, and all of them competing with the same market, and none of them doing anything to bring in money from abroad. Look at one financial institution called a bank, or even building society. None of them doing anything to bring money into this country. What they're doing, they're offering people loans to buy a house. And yes, a few Jamaicans who are abroad might take up a mortgage, but typically that doesn't happen, because the average person abroad not coming to take no mortgage, especially in a market where you don't have a fixed mortgage rate. That's the other problem for the real estate market here, and banks. They keep giving people mortgages, but it's not a fixed rate mortgage. So whenever you have anything shifting, they increase your monthly costing, and eventually you might even end up losing your house because you can't keep up with that. The same thing I talked about with the businesses and the leases. The same thing applies here. If you don't have the means to keep up with inflation, then it's going to kill your investments, or your so-called investments. And if mortgage banks keep setting up your mortgage rate as they see fit, because there's a shift in created, and I say created because inflation is not something that just grows on its own. It's manipulated, and they increase that to increase the profit. It's killing your ability to end up with residual income for you to retire and to build equity, which is also digging into your whole lifestyle. So again, here were me, myself and my partners, and some of the joint venture partners we have are here in Jamaica, sitting thinking their business is a loft, because these judges are sitting on their investment and their money and not trying to get us to go forward. And so they're destroying the Jamaican economy, they're destroying the Jamaican people. So when they're trying to take revenge on me for a company that has no interest in this country, that's why I said that those people need to be cleaned out of the system. They don't have their country's interests at heart. They're committing crimes, and they're destroying the economy and the individual. And because they're doing all of that, the interrelatedness which we talked about in terms of crime, they're helping to commit a crime when Capital One is there trying to extort us out of Jamaica, blackmailing us not to do our projects, getting the judges to pass orders and give orders which are in contradiction of the Constitution and the law and the rules of the court, which we also pointed out to you. And then they turn around on not realizing that they're helping to contribute to these persons who are scamming people or robbing people because they can't get jobs or viable opportunities. And it would also mean the persons who are thieving money out of the banks and those institutions probably wouldn't have to be doing it, because they're not living above their means. They would have real means to make money, so they don't have to steal people's money like Mr. Bolt's money and those other 30 or 40 investors. It's a vicious cycle, and nothing happens without influencing a sector of the economy. One sector, anything happens. If they plant yam in St. Mary and the yam is destroyed, it's going to affect yams throughout the country, because it's going to send up prices because there's a shortage. So it's the same thing. What these judges are doing, they're helping to destroy this country's economy. So our services included a portfolio development, which is what I said we were going to have our members or our clients develop a real estate portfolio where they would have vested interest in property, not only locally but internationally, so that they can earn the foreign exchange that will build this country, because those earnings will come back to this country and go into the same financial institutions that's hurting this country. So there was portfolio development and management. We would help them with learning how to do it, and in the event that they had property abroad, show them how to manage it long distance or command a fee for managing it ourselves. Then the real estate investments, as I said, foreclosure protection and prevention. As I mentioned, if inflation is eating into your and causing your mortgage rates to go up, and your income is fixed, it means there's a diminishing return one way or the other, and sometimes gets to a point where you can't afford it, so you end up having your property foreclosed on. We actually had proprietary products that would prevent you from ending up in foreclosure or losing your property. So one of them was a foreclosure protection and prevention plan, and we actually sat with clients starting to work on it. In fact, we're calling clients to say, you're not ready, because we can't force them to take the products. You're not ready, and they said, no, we're not ready yet. And I think a few people came forward, and we started to look about projects. We'd take them out to properties. We would help them to identify properties that we're interested in. We would go out, vet the property, do an audit on the property, and tell them, no, don't buy this property for this reason, buy this property for this reason, because it's going to create an income for you, so you don't have to be coming out of pocket. If you're not coming out of pocket with your expenses to cover your mortgage, it means whatever you work, you can save. Again, building that lifestyle and quality of life, which is what we wanted. So there was a joint venture program, and that was developed, as we said, for persons who had property. They were asset rich, we call them, and cash poor. They had the asset, they were sitting on it, they would eventually lose it because they can't afford to pay the taxes, or they would succumb to life itself and leave the planet, and then the property would sit there and end up in fight between relatives and all of that, or attorneys going in and stealing the property. So we would come in and do the joint venture, offer them the technical services, and with the knowledge of the market, develop the property. In some cases, we would acquire the development rights, which is what we did with this gentleman in Montego Bay, $20-something million, and these attorneys went there and told him to screw up our business. So we paid him for the development rights, and then we would offer, in most cases, a percentage of the profits, which typically would end up to be more than what the property is worth, because the development rights, we typically would equate the development rights to the value of the property, the appraised value of the property, pay them that money as part of their earnings, so at least they have that fixed amount that they know they're getting out of the project, whether it's successful or not. They have that, then they would share in 5% of the profits. And it means whatever we made, we still would have to give them that extra money, so they're making 5% on top of what the value of the property is. And so again, it would work to build people, and there was a major trust factor, because what we did, we didn't want to transfer the titles for any reason. We wanted our clients to be comfortable. Transferring title would be costly, more effective, and it wouldn't affect our ability to develop the property. And once we had a joint venture agreement signed, it's honored and respected by the real estate board and all of that, because it's legal. And this is one of the projects in Clarendon that we had a lot of joint venture partners. When we went to court, Justice Ty, and I did a video on that, and a lot of people not paying attention to what we put in that video, and I think you should go back, and if you have property or you have a mortgage, you should go back and look at it. If you purchase your property from one of these registered developers in Jamaica, and you check, make sure you do your research. If they don't have a dealer's license, then you don't have to pay that mortgage, because it's an illegal, not the mortgage, you don't have to pay. It would be an illegal arrangement, and the courts made that because Justice Ty changed the law, and she told me, and I have the tape again, so you could go back and look at it and recommend it to people. And I'm pushing that because unless they fix it, and that's going to have to be a fix by Parliament, because I filed something in the appeals court now to deal with it, and for some reason they've been sitting on it, It's well over 2, 3, 4 years for us to get this ruling. And I contacted them up to last week and said, why is this ruling taking so long when the court's rule said we should have gotten a ruling within 15 days, 58 days maximum? Now they don't want to rule on it. I am thinking, because if they rule against me, it means that the entire real estate market and mortgage industry is in shambles, because banks couldn't collect the note, because all those notes that belong to houses that persons purchased from a real estate developer that did not have a real estate dealer's license, those notes would be illegal and they wouldn't have to pay it back. So it throws the whole mortgage industry in a whole spin. So if they rule against me, that's what happened. If they rule and overturn what Justice Ty did, then fine, we go on to our projects. The lady has to succumb to the joint venture agreement and honor it, and we go on to our business. But so far they haven't done it. So I'm going to encourage persons to go talk to their banks and let their banks know, well, guess what, I have to go stop paying this note because it's an illegal thing, because the developer that we purchased the property through was not registered. Again, because our knowledge base in real estate is pretty up there. I am very versed, understand the market, understand what's going on. I am a mortgage broker by training and profession. I just don't practice. So I understand the business quite well. Hence the reason we're able to now to get people into all of these things. Home business opportunity. Again, said to you that we were going to train our people to have this home business opportunity. And that would now train the people to work the US real estate market, Canadian real estate market, UK market, and markets all over the world. And that's a major proprietary product that was designed to create within Jamaica and register a major exchange that nobody else in the planet or the world has to date, and major exchange that would facilitate real estate activity and so generate tons of money. So can you imagine a real major real estate exchange in Jamaica that doesn't function like these people having just a listings and all of that? I said, these people not doing real estate from the investment, they're just in there playing around with lending money, getting money, selling houses back. That's not real estate. If you really want to be a real estate investor, then you need to look into what we know, I know. And then we had the property listing services, which would allow our, somewhat like what they now registered. If you notice, their property listing services actually came into being after we were shut down and we were targeted by the FSC and all of that. So again, we would have been way ahead of the game in terms of what we're doing. And again, this is a whole bunch of stuff that will be coming out of these projects that we're doing that would build this economy. We're also going to franchise in Asia with the home base here in Jamaica. And the company that was going to franchise us, we were going to be franchising firstly in India. We would have had more franchises, unit franchises in India more than McDonald's has throughout the world. So you figure, and Jamaica is home base for those corporate activities. And as I said, we have a long list of other things, all worked within the real estate, all backed up by the projects we were doing. And that is what these people have been doing to kill Jamaica. Going to stop here. Don't want to go over that mark. I've been warned or recommended. As you can see, it's difficult. I have a lot more to say about the real estate investment and all of that. But again, it's this kind of thing that I wanted to point out to you, how this country is being handicapped and destroyed by the corruption that exists. Even now, once we are allowed to move our projects forward, these things can be implemented. And these are a business and that nobody else is offering this country. As I said, you have a whole sector coming in, and we're calling for foreign investors. They come invest in Jamaica and all that money goes out. No good for the country. Look at what they did with China. And I'm not kicking China. China is a company, a country that's building its economy. But what they're doing with China is killing this country. China comes in, builds highways that we should be able to build, or at least contract, manage that contract. Then all the assets or income from those things stay in the country. We're paying China a toll for the road for much years, I think 50 something years. So that's money that goes out from this country for our own land. We're actually paying China money that they take out of this country for our own property that we should be controlling. They gave China thousands of acres of land, prime land. And it's prime either because it's virgin land that we shouldn't be developing and protected as part of our environment, our ecosystem. But they give them prime land, and China is up in there now mining those properties. And they turn around and now they take those properties and the mining material, minerals, and sell it to local people, again sucking out our money. So they're getting money, they're getting paid for the highway based on the toll. They get land for the highway, which is significantly more valuable than the highway. And then we have to now pay them back. So taxpayers' dollars going out because of bad decisions. And I'm equating that and not kicking the Chinese, because if you were China and Jamaica was China, I would push the agenda as well, because that's long-term growth for my economy. Jamaica didn't have to go that route, because encouraging persons to come in and do major developments like we had on the table would facilitate the development of the country's infrastructure and roads. You probably won't know this, but they're just talking about a bypass road from Montego Bay. In our development plan submitted to NEPA and the government, one of the proposals we had was to pay for or contribute over $5 million for a bypass road around the Iron Shore, Montego Bay area that would have solved the traffic problem way before now. Remember, this is almost 20 years now, at least 15 years. And it's after we proposed that more than 15 years ago and proposed to pay for it now. A Chinese company coming again to take our money on road that we could have been developing and would have developed. We proposed to spend money to take care of the landscaping along Sunset all the way around the airport. We proposed an alternate ramp out of the airport into the major complex with 18,000 parking spaces in the flanker area, with an aerodrome that would shelter airplane jets coming in during the hurricane season. And we had the airport, the small airport that deals with private airports, supporting that. We would be building it. We're not asking government for a dime. The only thing we said to government, and Mr. Bruce Golding had said to sell the property along Sunset and all the lands that the airport had that they weren't going to use. So we had submitted. So when he came out and said that, we went back to them and said, well, we proposed purchasing this property for development purposes. This is what we'll be doing with it. A reggae museum right there, a black museum right there, and a ramp out to the airport to stop traffic. And no response from the people at the airport authority was supposed to take care of it. So we contacted the minister again, and we spoke to Mr. Vaz. And Mr. Vaz actually contacted us and had us send us to somebody at the airport people in Kingston. And we went to their Palisades, I think, is now Norman Manley. And we actually spoke to somebody over there. And to this date, and after we insisted, finally we got a letter from them saying, oh, they want to keep it for future use. We wrote back to them and said, here you have developers willing to pump money into this country to purchase land that you're not using. Any activity that you're going to be doing is going to be costing the taxpayers money. Why are you going to put off land that you don't have any use for? You're going to push the airport up on Sunset Avenue or Sunset Boulevard? It's not going to happen. We said there's a gutter between the airport lands and that particular piece of property. The rest of the property we would be preserving as natural preserve. Why are you trying to say you're going to hold on? You don't have any plans, and we have plans. The government say you must sell it, and this guy at the airport refused. So again, it goes back to the same thing. Then next thing we turn around, we see signs putting up airport lands, and they sell out the airport to some foreign enterprise, costing Jamaica. Thank you for listening. We're going to go on to other things, and hopefully again we get, because of your assistance and your involvement, we'll get the job done. We'll get to do these projects and build this country and build the region, as a matter of fact. So again, these are opportunities that you could take advantage of. This channel is not about just building hype. We actually want to do the job of what we wanted to accomplish before. Have a great Sunday, and looking forward to getting in touch with you again. Have a good one.